Super Smash Bros. Coming up for the Nintendo Switch is racist. What? JT. Okay, maybe I'm going a little bit too far with that, but there was some imagery that's questionable in this day and age that was left in promotional and marketing materials. From a content creator's perspective, this is a very challenging video to make. I don't want to be offending people that may have their legs firmly planted in the ground on one side or the other with this, but at the same time, I'm trying to open eyes and have a discussion. There might be a problem here, especially with the direction that we're headed as a society. Not to say that it's okay to hate on any culture or anything like that. That's not the direction I'm going with this whatsoever. But I do feel like there's a strong gray area where the line gets drawn on what's okay and what's not when it comes to stereotyping in the world of entertainment. As far as Super Smash Bros. Is concerned, there was a live stream done by Nintendo, the Treehouse live event after the Nintendo Direct, dedicated to playing the game. And when people saw Mr. Game & Watch holding a torch, baring his teeth with a feather coming out of the back of his head, a lot of people got upset about this. They did not feel like it was a good depiction of what Native Americans were, and it shouldn't be acceptable in modern society. But this whole thing was a homage to the 1982 game called Fire Attack with Mr. Game & Watch, in which players would help a cowboy defend his fort from being burned down by Native Americans. And using this caricature of Mr. Game & Watch sparked a ton of debate in lots of different forums across the entire internet. As far as Nintendo's concerned, they came down firmly on this issue almost immediately, saying Nintendo has been planning to distribute an update for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate that removes the feather from the silhouette of Mr. Game & Watch. The original game on which the depiction of the character is based was released more than 3 decades ago and does not represent our company values today. We sincerely apologize that this change was not noticed in our marketing material and are continuing our work to make Super Smash Bros. Ultimate an experience that is both welcoming and fun for everybody. Which is great. Nintendo is going the right way with this as far as making sure that they don't ruffle any feathers with society because of the direction society's going. And I definitely see where the frustrations could be on the people that are upset by this, because that represents centuries of genocide, oppression, and ongoing discrimination against indigenous people. Stereotypes have been used for ages to deny unique and diverse identities to many indigenous people and tons of cultures outside of them worldwide since basically the beginning of time. And we as a society have progressed to a point where we can actually look at this for what it is and say, you know, that's not right. That's not okay to treat people like this. We need to remove these kind of stereotypes and imagery and anything that could be offensive to cultures to make sure that people don't have a bias going into a conversation, a business meeting, or anything of the sort that could deny opportunities to people that should be given equal opportunity as others. But the other end of this is looking at it from a perspective of, what about creativity? What about the ability to entertain people? And where do you draw that line? That's the whole issue that's sparking this entire debate. And honestly, it feels like it's been swinging like a pendulum back and forth my entire life on what's okay, what's acceptable, and what's not. For right now, people are looking at this situation and are happy that Nintendo's taken the imagery out of the game. But I take a step back and say, what does this mean down the line for the next game? Or other movies or TV shows? As a society, where are we headed right now? A lot of people are familiar with The Simpsons and how they announced they're removing Apu because he's a cultural stereotype of somebody in a Quickie Mart that appropriates a culture that is offensive to many people in that culture, and they don't like him in that. Even though the show's been running for, what, 30 years now? Now all of a sudden it's not okay because as a society, we've progressed to the point of saying stereotypes are not okay in entertainment. But what does that do to comedy movies? Because a lot of comedy movies and TV shows are based upon stereotypes. A lot of the laughs that people get out of these movies is from stereotypes. And that's kind of an unfortunate reality of being a human right now. But sometimes you gotta take a step back and laugh at things because it's just too crazy not to. But why are they focusing just on Apu? What about comic book store guy? Or if you want to go to a race or nationality, what about me who's Italian and looking at Fat Tony in the Mafia. Just because they depict an Italian in the Mafia doesn't mean that I'm in the Mafia. It doesn't mean that anyone who's Italian is in the Mafia. Where do you draw the line on what stereotypes are acceptable and which ones are not? And I know I'm kind of going off track with the whole Smash Brothers situation, but it all circles back into that, because where do you stop? What's okay with the world of entertainment? Could you imagine a movie like Blazing Saddles coming out today?
Good morning, ma'am. And isn't it a lovely morning? Up yours.
Wow. No, definitely not. A lot of the jokes used in that movie were based off of stereotypes. And while it's a very funny movie, man, if I say that movie's funny this day and age, people will look at me like I'm an asshole. But what is wrong with this? Are we gonna kill comedy because stereotypes are not acceptable anymore? All I'm saying is, this is a very slippery slope, and it's extremely dangerous. Going down this road is going to kill creativity, and there is nothing stopping it, because everybody who's on board this train wants to stop everybody from making fun of anybody. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, what is important to you? What are your values? What do you get out of watching something? This is allowed, this is not. Why is something acceptable? Why is something not acceptable? But yet sometimes it is acceptable in the right light. Or if the person creating it is from that culture, then it's okay. There are just so many lines that this web has been tangled and crossed that it's a very challenging landscape to navigate as a creator this day and age. Those of you who have watched this channel for a while may recall when I reviewed a game called Mulaka on the Nintendo Switch, and I dressed up as Mulaka, and the creators of Mulaka actually reached out to me to say, thank you, that's awesome. You are actually the first official person that actually cosplayed as our game character, and it made their day. But then that video got shared on a hardcore SJW website that brought a lot of hate and anger to my channel, and people were saying some really nasty things in the comments about me there, and I was really taken off guard by that, because honestly my whole thought process going into making that video was to look like the character, present a review, and give respect to the culture. But yet no matter how hard I tried to do that, people looked for any angle they could get to say that I was coming after them and culturally appropriating their ethnicity and making their whole entire culture look bad, or making fun of them, or whatever they could come up with to say just to justify their hatred. And that's a sad reality of the world today, is I feel like there's a lot of people that are just angry and are looking for outlets to do so, and this whole movement is an outlet for that. As far as the Smash Brothers situation is concerned, I'm not a big fan of Nintendo taking that out of the game. Honestly, I don't see anything offensive about a feather in the head of a Native American. That's what Native Americans wore back in the day. There's nothing specifically cultural appropriating this Native American cartoon character with a feather on his head. Those who are associating a cartoon character wearing a feather on his head with years of genocide, that's kind of on you. When I look at this, I don't do that. I look at this for sheer entertainment value and hearkening back to the origins of the game, the actual roots of where it came from, where that's the history of it. Are we going to go into the discussion of trying to erase history from the games now because it's insensitive and putting people into areas that they don't agree with and feel comfortable with, so we're just going to avoid it and pretend like it never happened in the first place? My point is, there's definitely two sides to this. I'm sensitive to both of them. I see why it's such a challenging situation to navigate this day and age, but at the end of the day, I care about creativity and entertainment, and as long as you're not hurting somebody else, I'm all for it. Is that really so bad to say? Apparently, it is. But that's where I'm going to pass it off to you guys, and let me know in the comments how you feel about this situation and the greater perspective, where we're headed as society on the whole. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, have a good one.